exudation on tamarisk trees and on bushes. Even if this doubtful contention were true, the provision of it for Israel is still a miracle, because of its timing, for it did not appear on the ground on the seventh day of each week. Acts 16. 4, 5, 25-27. Furthermore, whereas it bred worms and stank if kept over until the next day, it did not do so when kept over for food on the Sabbath. Acts 16. 20, 24. It might also be said that the description of this manna as in exudation from trees does not seem to agree fully with the Bible description of the manna. The Bible manna was found on the ground and it melted in the hot sun. It could be pounded in a mortar, ground in a mill, boiled, or baked. Acts 16. 19-23. New 11. 8. See manna. Credibility of the testimony. The Christian religion is interwoven with the miracle of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. 1 Cor 15. 16-19. The evidence that it took place was not weak but powerful. There were more than 500 eyewitnesses to testify that it did take place. 1 Cor 15. 3-8. Act 2. 32. The motive of the persons who accepted the miracle of Jesus' resurrection as true must also be considered. Many persons have experienced persecution and death for their beliefs. Religious, political, and otherwise. But the Christians who so suffered received no material or political gain. Rather than get power, wealth, and prominence, they often suffered the loss of all these things. They preached Jesus' resurrection, but did not use any form of violence to promote their beliefs or to defend themselves. And one reading their arguments can see that they were reasonable persons, not fanatics. They lovingly tried to help their fellow men. Characteristics of Bible miracles. Noteworthy characteristics of the biblical miracles are their open and public nature, their simplicity, their purpose and motive. Some were performed in private or before small groups. 1 Kai 17. 19-24. Mr. 1. 29-31. Act 9. 39-41, but often they were public, before thousands or even millions of observers. Acts 14. 21-31. 19. 16-19. Jesus' works were open and public. There was no secrecy attached to them. And he healed all who came to him, not failing on the pretext that some lacked sufficient faith. Mount 8. 16. 9. 35. 12. 15. Simplicity marked both miraculous cures and control over the elements. Mr. 4. 39. 5. 25-29. 10. 46-52. In contrast to magical feats accomplished with special props, staging, lighting, and ritual, biblical miracles generally were performed without outward display, frequently in response to a chance encounter, a request, and that on the public street or in an unprepared place. 1 Kai 13. 3-6. Lu 7. 11-15. Act 28. 3-6. The motive of the individual performing the miracle was not for the selfish prominence of the individual or to make anyone wealthy, but it was primarily to glorify God. Joe 11. 1-4, 15, 40. Miracles were not mysterious acts performed merely to satisfy curiosity and to mystify. They always helped others, sometimes directly in a physical way and always in a spiritual way, turning persons to true worship. Just as the bearing witness to Jesus is what inspires prophesying is the spirit of the prophecy, FTNS, so, too, many of the miracles pointed to Jesus as God sent one. Re 19. 10. Bible miracles involved not only animate things, but also inanimate ones, such as calming the window. Text Oe acute miritra longo. Miriam 414 present in the 1st century would pass away. They were needed only during the infancy of the Christian congregation. 1 Cor 13. 8-11. In reading the history of the Acts of Apostles, we see that Jehovah's Spirit was working mightily, speedily, forming congregations, getting Christianity firmly established. Act 4. 4. Chaps 13, 14, 16-19 In the few short years between 33 and 70 CE, thousands of believers were gathered in many congregations from Babylon to Rome, and perhaps even farther west. 1 PE 5. 13. Row 1. 1, 7. 15. 24 It is worthy of note that copies of the scriptures then were few. Usually only the well-to-do possessed scrolls or books of any sort. In pagan lands there was no knowledge of the Bible or the God of the Bible, Jehovah. Virtually everything had to be done by word of mouth. There were no Bible commentaries, concordances, and encyclopedias readily at hand. So the miraculous gifts of special knowledge, wisdom, speaking in tongues, and discernment of inspired utterances were vital for the congregation then. 1 Co 12. 4-11, 27-31 But, as the Apostle Paul wrote, when those things were no longer needed, they would pass away. A different situation today. We do not see God performing such miracles by the hands of his Christian servants today, because all needed things are present and available to the literate population of the world, and to help those who cannot read but who will listen, there are mature Christians who have not